Welcome back. We got transmission parts, cases, gears, shafts. We've got stuff scattered everywhere. This is going to be part 2 of the 465 rebuild. You'll kind of get an idea. I'm kind of everywhere in this video. I end up finding a 76 transmission. It's a 10 spline output. I was going to just move a few gears over into it. I'm doing a 32 spline shaft. Pretty much a 32 spline shaft in the 76 case with all new bearings, synchronizers, torque lock third gear. While I'm in here, I want to make sure nothing goes wrong with anything, but we'll just keep our fingers crossed that I don't have 4 reverses and 1 forward when I get done. So hang around. Taking the transmission that was in the truck, getting the bearings out of it was not that bad, but buddy, they were stuck in that 76. They'd been sitting under a shed, drawing moisture in on the bearings, and they were stuck to the shaft. So you'll kind of see how I got them out on this video. So hopefully this will help somebody if you decide to want to do yours now. Pretty ingenious ways of getting some of those bearings out. So kind of hang around, watch. Don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks. And just a quick disclaimer, this ain't a how-to. You tear yours apart and can't get it back together, it ain't my fault. I'm just a dumb hillbilly that won't pay nobody to do nothing. So you want to kind of watch, see how I got the bearings out of mine. Hang around. God dang, fella. Well, I got a little carried away before I started filming. Yeah, I meant to film every bit of this because I'm going to tear this down, putting on new synchros, bearings, shift forks. I was looking at my reverse shift fork. I don't think it's actually broke. I think it may be a rough casting and something may have hit it and put a spot in it, but I don't think it's broke. I'll pull the top plate around here in a minute and show you that. But I'm going to rebuild this right here pretty much on this jack stand, just like anybody would have to do. I wish I had filmed pulling this bearing out. This front main shaft bearing is the same as the rear, so I'm going to set the camera up, show you how I got it out. But the one everybody has trouble getting out is this lower counter shaft, the front bearing. It is a small roller bearing, if I can find it. So it sets in there like this. Of course, it was drove in there. I see people trying to pry it out screwdriver, and I'm sure they make a special tool. But now, the other case is not made hardly like this. These holes, these slots go all the way through. So what I end up doing, a 2-jaw puller, actually I loaned mine out, but it would not fit. I had some old brake caliper bolts, and I just built it up with weld on the end and made me some hooks to where they would just barely fit in there and get in behind that bearing. And then I took my steering wheel puller, slid them into it, and pulled it right out. And I mean, it worked like a charm. I wish I'd have filmed that. I meant to. I just get wound up, getting ready to get something done, and just turned in and done it. But I fixed 2 of those up out of those bolts. I'm going to put them to the side, and kind of just made my own jaws to go in. And I ground them, kept working with them to where I had just enough room to work them in around and get them hooked behind that bearing. And then just put my little steering wheel puller on there, the center plate out of it, and pulled that bearing right out. And I mean, it worked like a charm. So I'm going to get set up here. I'll set the camera up. I'll show you the way I got the main shaft bearing out. The rear main shaft bearing and the rear counter shaft idler bearing on the back are the same as this one. So not the same bearing size, but they come out the same way. So I'm going to get it turned around, get the camera set up, and get those 2 bearings out of the back. All right, the front main output bearing that I done removed is pretty well the same as this. with the exception of this lock ring. Now, if you got a 2-wheel drive 465, your yoke's going to hold the tension on this rear bearing. But on the 4-wheel drive, you've got the spanner style lock nut, and I don't have a spanner wrench to torque this, so we'll get to that when we get to putting it back together. This transmission's a 32 spline, got the long output shaft on it for a 208 transfer case. I've put a ratchet strap around the front to try to take some tension, keep the main shaft from dropping down when I pull this bearing out. I want it to stay pretty well flat to where it needed to be. So I'm going to get this nut took off, get this lock washer off of it, and once you get that, removing this rear bearing is the same as what I removed the front bearing. So I'm going to just use a little punch and a hammer. Actually, I think that's a nail set. My punch is over in the toolbox or in this bag. One reason I'm doing this video is to show you can do it without a whole lot of special tools. Once we get this tore down, we'll go to press, and you will need a press. You're going to have to press a few gears off here to change some of the synchros, synchronizers. So here's our lock nut, spanner style lock nut, and here's your lock washer. It's got an ear, sets in this tab, locks under that bearing, and that torques to a certain spec. Yeah, and I don't know how we're going to torque it, but we'll figure something out. If we can find a spanner wrench off of the 4-wheeler, we'll weld a 1/2-inch socket to it. That thing is gummed full. Trying to find the end of this C-clip. There it is. Another thing, I've got some little, like, cheaper snap ring pliers, but the best thing I found for this is a pair of needle nose. Open them up and work those off of it. They come off really easy. So you got a large outer one on the front. You have an inner snap ring, holds the inner race of the bearing on the shaft. Next, you're going to need a bearing splitter. This is one thing you're going to need. And I think there's a special tool. I seen a guy doing it one time, like a factory GM tool, but I looked and looked, and he said they were pretty readily available. But I don't know how old his video was or where he was looking. Let me find a socket for this. Oh, here it is. And you're gonna need a larger bearing splitter puller. The thing with this one is it's so large, I don't have the 2-ear puller to screw in here and pull on the end of the shaft. So I watched another guy's videos. He kind of done the same thing I'm doing. You're just going to tighten that up into that groove that outer ring, that clip just came out of, that lock ring. You're going to tighten your ears up into it of your bearing splitter puller. We're going to snug it up just a little. We get a little pressure on that. We don't want to go too tight and bust it. I'm going to just put a pry bar down here, pry this back. I did have to, on the front, tap on the input shaft to drive the center part of it back out of the race, but it all worked out really good. I mean, it popped right off. So we're just going to drive in behind this a little. And tap on the output shaft. And it's not really a pressed fit. It's just a pain to get in there to it. And there it is. So far, really, this is only like special tool, I guess you could say, that I have used. So, all right. Next, I'm gonna get this rear bearing here, I guess, out. That way I can get my input shaft out. So to get it out, you need both of these bearings on the idler shaft out to let that idler shaft drop. That'll allow enough room to get the input shaft out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this one out, same way as I did that one. And we'll be ready to get all the guts out of this. Pull that rear reverse gear out, the reverse idler gear. We'll get it out. Then we're gonna, that case over there, those bearings are rusted on the spline where it's been sitting outside, but we'll finally get it. All right, so I got the main shaft bearings out. I got the lower idler bearing out. And I think it's enough. I can pull my input shaft out. So there's a flight spot. Well, let me just get it out. I'm gonna set the camera up here. So on that input shaft, there's a flight spot on this gear. Line it up with the bottom, and I'm dropping my needle bearings everywhere. But you want that flight spot down, get it turned down, and wiggle it around a little, and it should come right out. I'm gonna have to get a magnet, get the rest of those needle bearings out. My kit will have new ones in it. Hoping I don't need to change that lock ring in there because they say it is a bear to get out. So anyway, that's got that out. I'm gonna get this synchro ring that goes behind the input. I'm gonna get it out. We're gonna try to lift the shaft, the main shaft out of here. Well, I didn't film it neither. I finally got the lower bearing out. It was a pain. What I finally ended up doing was taking a little propane torch and just heating the inner race up a little bit, and it finally just kind of walked on off. Started picking the input shaft, or the main shaft, up out of there before I realized I wasn't filming. As you can see, I got it. As you can see, I got it lifted up out. We're fixing to set it up out, get it out here where we can get the press and start pressing some of the gears off of it. I'm going to find something to stick through all of these, line everything up just like it comes off, so I'll kind of know how everything lays right back together. We're going to get this out though, get it set off to the side, and then we are going to get the busted reverse gear out. So these ain't light. There's the thrust washer for the back coming off. And there is our main shaft. All right, I got it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the idler shaft out, the counter shaft. If I can wiggle it up out from around the reverse gear, maybe, without mashing a finger. We're gonna look at it real good. I'll show you how you can tell this is a little bit newer model. Has a spacer in here instead of the lock rings. I'll show you that when I get it laid out here. And here is the reason we took it apart. As you can see, that reverse idler gear, What that does when you put it in reverse, you slide this forward, it hits the reverse driven gear on the primary shaft, but also reverses the rotation because it's riding on a gear on the idler shaft, the counter shaft at the bottom. And I am very surprised there is not more gears messed up, especially on that reverse driven gear and the one on the idler. But it appears this is the only one messed up. And I kind of thought something might have fell down in here, but now I'm wondering if, that bushing inside that gear is non-existent. It's just rattling in there. So we're going to take the shaft and the gear out of that one and put in this one. We also may use the we may go ahead and use the slider driven gear off of that one, along with maybe the second gear. They're in a lot better shape than what the ones out of this transmission are. So we'll just have to see when we start breaking it down. First, I got to get this one apart. This one had set outside, and it was, those bearings are stuck in there. I have a different type bearing puller coming tomorrow. I'm going to try it, kind of see if it makes it any easier getting those out, and I'll let you know how it works out. And as you can see, I got the reverse gear out. I didn't have a punch long enough, but I had a 3/8 extension. I come through here and just tapped it a few times. The bushing in that reverse idler gear, it is gone. It is eat up. It had started wiring on the idler shaft. So we're going to pull this transmission apart, get the reverse gear, idler shaft out of it. We may actually end up using, I don't know yet, may end up using the reverse driven gear, maybe even second gear. It's in a lot better shape than that one. The only thing is, if I use this gear on the main shaft, I'm going to have to take the gear off the counter shaft that's kind of wore to this. If not, I'm afraid I'll have a whining, roaring, some noise. So we'll see. And I may end up, who knows, I may end up using every one of these gears. Just pressing them all off, putting them on my 32 spline shaft. We'll have to see. I'll have to see once I start getting it apart. I'm going to make sure and get this one apart and get the reverse idler gear and the shaft out of it, put in mine. So it's going to be it for tonight. Come back tomorrow evening and try to get this one apart and start doing some thinking, some calculating. So I ordered this puller kit from Amazon, mainly for these, because the bearing splitter's not pulling the bearings out of the old case. It's set outside and rusted in. I thought maybe I could get these in there and try this puller setup. I've never seen one like this. I just happened to see it on there looking for some. But it did have these hooks. A man could make these fit in the lower counter shaft bearing on the front of the transmission. This would have worked out good for it, but I already made the ones out of the brake caliper bolts, and I like my design a little better. So I'm going to get this in there, see if it'll pull those main shaft bearing out that's kind of rusted on there. Well, guys, I'm impressed. For $21, this thing would have been all I needed to take all those bearings out. Like, it pulled, that bearing is on there, and I'm putting some juice to it with the impact, and it's coming off, and it's about off, like I am. I am. For $21, it's what the kit cost. If I can find the name of it, a picture of it, the link, something, I'll throw it in here, because getting that one bearing out, it's been worth $21. awesome. Awesome. You know, I thought I'd never get these out of that case. They've been sitting out, drawing in moisture and in the weather. And those little hooks just hook right up inside the inner and outer races. I had to pull the cage off, get it pulled back. But, I mean, it worked awesome. So I'm gonna try the bottom one, see if I can't get the bottom one off with it. And I'll come back when I get this case stripped down and ready to get the reverse gear out of it. Now, the bottom one, it is in there. And as you can see, when I took the top one out, it stripped the threads on it. But as far as the design down here, this has been worth the $21. That bearing is coming out. Just gonna need a little more persuasion. Using the impact on it, probably one reason I stripped the threads, and I'm probably gonna strip them on the end. But this is really the last bearing I need to get out with this. When I get done with it, I'm gonna get me a grade 8, like an 8-inch long bolt, and a grade 8 nut, weld to the back side, drill it out, and have a little beefier setup on it. But so far this has worked great. All right, I got the 67 to 72 case tore down. I have decided I'm using all the gears out of this, with the exception of third gear. I bought a new third gear with a slide ring. I got the kit in today. It didn't come with the synchro hub, springs, or the keepers, so I've ordered all those also. This case here, the 67 apparently to 77, they're made different. On mine, which was out of an 81, 82, 83 model truck, so it'd be a 79 up. These slots are cut all the way through to where I could get that puller in behind it. This one was not. I couldn't get a puller into the little grooves on the bearing. And the bearing is not in there tight. Just trying to get a hold of it, get a way to get it out, was nearly impossible. So I'm not using this bearing. I am going to use the, like I said, all the gears out of this. And I did realize this bearing on the counter shaft, front counter shaft bearing, is different on these cases also. It actually has a bigger bearing and a smaller diameter shaft on the end where it rides in the bearing. So I'm going to press it, all these gears off, put them on my shaft, use my case, press all the main shaft gears off, press them on my 32 spline shaft, with the exception of the new third gear, the torque lock gear or whatever. It's supposed to help keep them from ever jumping out of third. But you know, the main thing, guys, be persistent if you're going to do this. All the bearings with this puller, I'm going to show you the puller I bought in a minute to get these out. And the puller worked pretty decent. I mean, it got the bearings out. And it was cheap. But this lower one, I had nothing to get it out. I ended up welding 2 bolts onto that bearing and used the hub off my steering wheel puller to pull that bearing out. So, I mean, if you're going to do it, I mean, I'm sure some people probably have the correct tools for this. I don't. Don't plan on ever doing another one. I'm going to keep a lot of this stuff up in case I ever do another one, or have to take this one apart again. But just, I mean, don't give up. You'll get them out. This case was a pain. It was the one that had been sitting outside, but the gears in it, honestly, they look perfect. I'm going to get them up on a table in a minute, let you look at them, kind of go over what I'm going to do again. But this can be done with just simple tools. This $25 puller, and I did go get a pair of lock ring pliers. That is the only thing really I have bought. I take that back. I bought a bigger bearing splitter than what I had. I bought a big one to fit these bearings. It's a rough job, and I've got a mess, but I'm fixing to get all this cleaned up, get everything up on the table, get the press set up, and start pushing bearings or gears off the shafts. All right, we got the shafts out of both cases, both of them emptied out. We're going to end up using most of the stuff out of the 76. So don't forget, like, comment, subscribe for part 3. I've borrowed a little 12-ton press. Going to use it. Press all the gears off the 76 to 10 spline shaft. Get the 32 spline shaft in. Get new bushings in. Torque lock third gear in. Synchronizers in. Yeah, we're going to just cross our fingers and hope it all stays in there when we put it back in there. So don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.